Hi, it's Cate Crowley from Teachers College, Columbia University in New York City. This video is specifically directed on acquiring skills on how to use non-word repetition tasks in assessments and also in screenings. Now in this video, we're going to focus on the English non-word repetition task devised by Dollaghan and Campbell in 1998. Dollaghan and Campbell looked at two groups of 20 kids ages 6 to 9 years, 9 months with a mean age of 7 years, 10 months. What we're going to do here, though, is look at preschoolers, because when you do evidence-based practice, you may or may not have research on the particular population you're evaluating. And so you want to see what you learn when you apply that research to your clinical evaluations. So we're going to look at several kids. What Dollaghan and Campbell says you look for in these non-word repetition tasks, I'm going to read this to you, is transforming the auto-acoustic phonetic sequence into its constituent phonemes, maintaining the ordered and phonologically coded string in working memory, and organizing the articulatory output. So I'll just play this for you, this one video. We'll think about what you're listening for here is how many phonemes the child produces correctly. All right, here we go. Ready? Nibe. Just say that. Nibe.
Nibe.
Good. Nice and a big voice. Nibe.
Nibe.
Beautiful. Vope.
Vope.
Tauge.
Touch.
Doif.
Doif.
Tebak.
Tebak.
Chovag.
Chovag.
Now, can you speak a little louder? Because you know I'm older. It's hard for me.
Chovag.
Oh, nice. Vachaip.
Vachape.
Now toif.
Naitoi.
Chi noi taub.
Chinoi tau.
Nai cho vabe.
Nitrovi.
Doi tau vab.
Joy tau
Te voi chag.
Tevor tag.
They ta chai doip.
Te.
Let me try it again. Va ta chai doip. Let's give me a new one. I'll give you a new one. You listen? Are you listening, Lucy? We're almost done. Davo noi chig.
Daivo noichi.
Nai choi tau voob.
Naitoi tavu.
Ta va chi nai.
Tavachinai.
So you saw Caitlin and you saw this task. Now think about it when we're thinking, what kind of information does this tell us about Caitlin? It's probably going to tell us about her working memory. It's going to tell her about her processing skills, specifically her phonological awareness. Can she hear sounds, hold them, and repeat them? This is going to impact her vocabulary development. If she can't hear the sounds, she can't hear the new words, she won't be able to hold them and repeat them with their semantic meaning. So it tells us about attention. This little girl, Caitlin, was very attentive, working memory, as we've said. And it's obviously going to affect language, but this particular test doesn't give you that much information. So if I were doing a screening or an evaluation, I'd do the non-word repetition task, and then I would do something that looks at syntax like the SLAM cards or something that looks at deeper syntax. So we've created a scoring sheet for you. Now it's going to be available to download at leadersproject.org. If you just search non-word score sheet, you'll find it. So have a look at this, what Caitlin did. Now, when you look at the score sheet, you see that she got almost all of them right. When you count it up, she got 84 of a total of 96 possible phonemes. And when you calculate, so you divide 84 by 96 and multiply it by 100 to get your percent. So it's 87.5%, did extremely well. You could see her attention was very, very strong as well. And the ones that she got one wrong when it went into 4 syllables. Did she lose attention? She certainly didn't really fall apart there because the last 3 were almost perfect. And those are 4 syllables, which is a lot for a 3.5-year-old. So one of the things as evaluators that we think about is she didn't get any of the first four syllable non-words right. But that was like she lost attention, or it was overwhelming for her. Once we got her refocused, she got the rest right. So really, she has an extremely high skill in listening to, holding the sounds, and articulating the sounds. I'm sure she's going to have an easy time learning to read with that phonological awareness. She probably picks up vocabulary very easily, and she's probably going to be a very good language learner in general. Just say what I say. Here we go. Nibe.
Nibe.
Vope.
Rope.
Tauge.
Couch.
Doif.
Doif.
Tavok.
Tavak.
Chovag.
Chovag.
Vachipe.
Vachai.
Noitauf.
No time.
Now watch your voice. You want to speak very nicely so I can hear you, because now we're seeing so far it's perfect. Chi noi taub.
Chi no tap.
Nai cho vabe.
Nai cho vape.
Doi tau vab.
Don't try that.
Te voi chaig.
Table check.
Vata chai doip.
Da chai dope.
Davo noi chig.
Da no ni trick.
Nai choi tau voob. And here's the last one. Ta chi naig.
Tavachi nai.
Whoa! So with this boy, Marcos, he's 4 years old, just turned 4. And we see that he has, 21 wrong or 75 correct, which is 78% of phonemes correct. He does break down in the third 4 syllables. He was breaking down there. Definitely that last one, Tavachinaig, it's amazing how many kids grab that. Maybe by the end, I'm giving so much intonation that they pick that up. So just so you know that as you see, I am saying the words and I'm allowing the kids to look at me. The actual methodology in the research was they would make a recording and play audio tape, but it could be a different kind of recording, put headphones on the child and just have the child repeat that. So I've tried to do that in my evaluations, and I find that I'm evaluating one kid. Sometimes it's the technology. Logistically, it's hard to get everything together. That's one thing. Secondly, even if I have it together, sometimes it's so disengaging for the child. You know, I'm doing a bunch of things in the evaluation and it's disengaging. So I do this directly with the child. I would urge you to try the methodology that they use in the research to see if it works for you. And that would be where the child hears it on headphones so they don't see the mouth at all. There's no feedback from information that the kid gets by looking at your mouth because they're just hearing it through the headphones. So you can see that there was some more breakdown with Marcos as he got into higher syllables. Even at the 3-syllable level, there was some breakdown. And we did see one consistent error, which is the K for the G. So a voicing issue, but he is a bilingual child. He has English and Spanish. He has the sounds of Spanish and the sounds of English. And in this case, all the V's were V's as opposed to the allophone in Spanish, B, which you'll see in a minute. Say what I say. Nibe.
Nibe.
Vope.
Vope.
Tauge.
Couch.
Doif.
Dope.
Tavok.
Tavak.
Chovag.
Chovag.
Vachipe.
Vachai.
Noi tauf.
No tap.
Chi noi taub.
Chi no taub.
Nai cho vabe.
Nitro babe.
Doi tau vab.
Do fight fab.
Te voi chai.
Fa change your child.
Ready? This is the hard ones.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Va ta chai dope.
Dope.
Wait till I finish. Listen again. Va ta chai dope.
Dope.
Listen till I finish. Hold on. Da vo noi chig.
Chi.
Try it again.
Da choi chi.
So now we're looking at Felix. Now, we saw something really interesting with Felix, several things. But first, he is a bilingual Spanish-speaking child. He has all the sounds of English and all the sounds of Spanish. If you noticed, a couple of times he did a B for a V, which are allophones in Spanish, so I marked that correct. He also had this wonderful, he knew it was getting harder for him, and instead of just spacing out, what he did was when I said, ta va ta chai doip, he started repeating while I was saying the sounds, hoping that maybe trying to make up for a short-term memory issue. We're not sure, but what I like about it is that he had a strategy. He figured out, he problem solved, there was an issue, and he problem solved a strategy for himself. It didn't really help him that much in this exercise, but it showed me some really good problem solving skills. It was a strength of his, I would call. So he got 69 out of 96, which is 72% of
Phonemes.
correct. Now, you may say, but how do we know what's problem or not? So, again, what you have to do with this, we're applying the research. What you have to do then is develop your clinical judgment by going out and doing this with a bunch of children who are typically developing and who've never been identified as having a disorder and are not suspected of having a disorder, and then kids you're actually evaluating. You will start, I promise you, in a very short period of time, you'll start to see what typical seems like. The reason I'm giving you several kids to look at in this video, all about the same age, is so your clinical judgment can start to develop just by watching this video.
Nibe. Big voice. Nibe. Bigger voice. You did perfectly. Say nibe. Yes. Vope. Tauge. Doif. I can't hear you. Bigger voice. Bigger voice. Good. Here's now this is the big voice column. Ready? Tevak. Chovag. Vachipe. Big voice, I can't hear you. You know, I'm getting older. It's hard for me to hear. So could you talk a little louder for me? Let's try that one again. Vachipe. Yes. Noi tauf. I can't hear you. Excellent. Chi noi taub. Nai cho vib. Doi tau vab. Now let me ask you, do you have a bigger voice? I remember hearing a nice big voice before. Now I just hear this little voice like this. So I want you to say, I want to do the last one again in a big voice because it's really important to hear that voice. You ready? Doi tau vab. Good. Te voi chag. Va ta chai doip. Da no. Excuse me, I messed up. Ready? Da vo noi chig. Can you say that? No, try this one. Nai choi tau voob. Try this last one. Ta va chi naig. Nice.
So here you have Paola, who's 3 years, 10 months. Now you can see she really started to break down early on. There were several times when she did the B for V, but I didn't give her credit for that because she's from a monolingual English home where only standard American English is spoken. So I didn't give her credit for that. There were several errors like that, the B for V errors. But I did not give her credit because I know of her language acquisitional history, which you got to know for this. The thing that also struck me about this little girl is she almost knew from the beginning this was going to be hard for her. She lacked confidence. There was none of that playfulness that we saw in the two boys right before her, or in the first school, she had she was approaching this as a task that needed to be done. Rather, this little girl, she was very shy. She was worried about doing it. Of course, her scores are going to be worse. She didn't come up with any strategies like the boy right before who said what I was saying at the same time to try to keep track of things. She is a little girl who, I'll tell you a bit about her. She is a little girl whose parents were concerned about her. But her parents are a upper class family, and she had all kinds of great toys and letters on the refrigerator and puzzles and colors and shapes and body parts. So she was given one of those omnibus standardized language tests that many of us, well, I don't, but people give to preschoolers. And she did not qualify as having a disorder. Why? Because it tests colors, shapes, body parts, things that she would have had a lot of exposure to because of her socioeconomic background. What I like about the non-word repetition tasks, it reduces the bias in assessment. So instead of, sometimes there's bias, positive bias. So the kids like this little girl who really needed help went through the whole assessment process and was determined she didn't need any support because they used this positive bias standardized test that negatively affected her. So what this did, it took that out, and we could see a girl who was really struggling. So you've seen these different kids. Actually, you probably are getting the sense now that at least for these four children, the first one was typically developing maybe a bit above average. The second one I would characterize as mild to moderately language disorder. Now you just saw a little bit of it, but you can start to see what this information you get from non-word repetition tasks. The next boy, he had a lot of strengths, but he did break down, and I would call he has a moderate language disorder. And this last little girl has a moderately severe language disorder, maybe on the edge of severe, but probably moderately severe because she has such an awareness of the fact that she can't really do this. So those four kids, if you start to think about it, and how did I come up with that moderately severe amount? It wasn't just based on the non-word repetition tasks. I spent time with them. I did fast word mapping. I did the slam cards to gather language without that bias stuff that we usually have in our standardized tests. And again, what we looked at was working memory, we looked at attention, we looked at some personality and problem-solving skills. We learned whether they could hear the information, hold it, and repeat it back. And of course, we're going to need that for reading. We're going to need that for learning new vocabulary. We're going to learn that for comprehension of language. Let's see some more. Just say what I say. Naib.
Naib.
Loop.
Loop.
Tauj.
Tauj.
Doif.
Doif.
Tevak.
Tevak.
Chovag.
Chovak.
Vachaip.
Vashai.
Noi tauf.
No self.
Chi noi taub.
Chino self.
Nai chovabe.
Nitro babe.
Doi tauvab.
Dosa bab.
Te voi chag.
Table chat.
Va ta chai doip.
Sasha Lido.
Good. Davo noi chig.
Divanachi.
Nai cho tauvub.
Savus.
Tava chi naig.
Savachati. Night. So
this boy, Martin, or Martin, is 4 years, 1 month old. His percent of phonemes correct was 75%. Now, the reason language acquisitional history is so important here is all of the other kids had very significant exposure to English even before they had started in the all-English school about 8 months before that filming happened. In this case, this boy was from a Spanish-dominant, almost all Spanish home, and he'd only been in this Head Start, which is all English, for a month and a half. So even though his percent of phonemes correct was 75%, that looks like he might have a disorder, but in fact, when I looked at his what the teacher had to say, what his language acquisitional history was, how his Spanish development was, whether the teacher, there were no issues, and that his language was really quite good and full, stronger in Spanish, but also in English. We see that this child, we see where the breakdown is, but this child is typically developing. I know that's going to throw some of you, but remember, a strongly Spanish dominant kid is likely to score lower than a child who is a monolingual English speaker or a bilingual kid with a lot of English exposure. So let's look at another child. Okay, look at me. Excellent. Nibe.
Night.
Vope.
Whoop.
Touch.
Tap.
Doif.
Dope.
Tavak.
Tava.
Chovag.
Jovak.
Vachipe.
Barkite.
Noi tauf.
No tough.
Chi noi taub.
Chino tough.
Nitove.
Night open.
Doi tauvab. Doi tauvab.
How did you do it?
Te voichag.
Table.
All right, this is the last 4. You only have 4 left. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Vata chai doip. Want to hear that one again?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, look at me because you weren't paying attention. That's what happened. Vata chai doip. Just say what I say. Ready? You have to look at me, not Thomas. Thomas is talking for me. Vata chai doip. Just say that. I'll give you right back, Thomas. All right, ready? Va,
Toy.
tai, doip.
Dope.
Excellent. Davo chi nai.
Davo. Chino.
Great, only 2 more. Na choi talvu.
Night. Tabu.
Taba chi nai.
Chaba. Chino.
You are the best. So here we are, another boy. By the way, I want to tell you that this boy and the boy before are in Head Starts. The one right before are both in Head Starts, as are the other children you're going to see. So we know something about their socioeconomic background. With this child, George, he's 4 years, 3 months old. His family speaks Ga at home. Ga is a language of Ghana spoken around the Accra region, which is the capital. So, but he doesn't speak Ga in school, but he definitely does speak it at home. So what was interesting about him shows how we have to make a differential diagnosis of children when we're evaluating them. So here we have this boy. If you remember, he broke down at the 3-syllable non-words, doi, tau, vab. He just didn't say it. He was distracted. So sometimes children get distracted because it's too much for them, which you saw in one of the earlier cases. But I wasn't sure if it was because he was overwhelmed by too much phonological information, too much processing that he had to do, or whether it had to do more with his diagnosis. So he broke down, and then he came right back and got, what was that? 2, 4, 6. Got 6 out of 7 in the next 3-syllable non-words, okay? We go to the next column, which is the 4-syllable non-words, and he didn't say anything. I tried repeating it. How many times? I think 2 or 3 times I tried repeating it, and I couldn't pull him back in. So I did something, just instinctively. I pulled his Thomas the Tank, and he's very, very focused on trains, and especially on that Thomas the Tank. So I took it away and I tried to re-engage him, and it worked. And so the last 3 he got 100%, the nine phonemes for the next 4-syllable words. So what that told me was even with that he got an 82%, but percent of consonants correct. But what it told me is he does not have a processing problem from a phonological point of view. He doesn't have an attention problem or working memory problem, a short-term memory problem. He can hear phonemes and hold them in place and repeat them, so he'll probably have good phonological awareness. But his autism issues may impact his performance on any assessment. So what was helpful is when you're an evaluator, you just have to say, what can I do to get this child to perform at its best so I can make that differential diagnosis? Because if I had not done anything and I just let him repeat the way he did, he would have come up as a kid who has an impairment in processing, and he doesn't. Nibe.
Nine.
Bigger voice. Nibe.
Nine.
Nice. Rope.
Rock.
Touch.
Touch.
Doif.
Touch.
Tevak.
Tabak.
Chovag.
Tabak.
Va chipe.
No chap.
Noi tauf.
No touch.
Chi noi taub.
No chap.
Nai chovabe.
No topic.
Doi tauvab.
No toilet.
Te voichag.
Table job.
Va ta chai doip.
No judge.
A little louder. Can you try that again? A big, strong voice. Va ta chai doip.
No touch.
Excellent. Davo noi chig.
No touch.
Nai cho tau vub.
Not to touch.
Tava chi nai.
Not
It's the last one. Tava chi nai.
tabachina.
Excellent.
Okay, so that was our last child, Charlie. He's 4 years, 2 months. He's also in that Head Start. As you see, he had 48
Phonemes.
correct, or a percent of 50%. Charlie, you could see it was harder to engage him. Now, was that because he was disinterested, or was that because he was just less engaged in the language process? According to his teacher and his development in Spanish, he is a child with a disability. He does have an IEP. But I think you can see from this boy Charlie and the boy Martin, who we saw 2 children ago, these kids who are bilingual in Spanish, their scores. So Martin was a typically developing boy with a lower score than our kids in the beginning, who were monolingual or had a lot of exposure in English. Charlie has similar exposure. This is a month and a half into being exposed to English. There were a couple of BV, allophone kind of changes, which were fine. He said cho bag and he said ba chipe. And of course I didn't count them as wrong. So this is a boy who definitely has issues. And it's helpful to see it. There are Spanish non-word repetition tasks. We will be doing a video on that sometime in the near future. Again, if you want these worksheets, you can download them at leadersproject.org. Just Google non-word repetition task scoring. Thank you so much.